Hey, everybody. Welcome to this special episode that we have with an amazing guest named Fiona. And we actually know each other through the AJC Coaching Career School, which is what has inspired this series. And the main topic of the series has been around generating conversations and creating clients. And Fiona has a very special journey, going from being a stay-at-home mother to having her own business, and she knows about that better than I do, better than anyone. And so she's going to share her wisdom here for anyone that's listening that may be going through this experience themselves, or just hearing the way she's approaching her business and what that transition is like, because many people go through different transitions. So I'm excited for this. I'm excited to speak with you, Fiona. And so if you could just introduce yourself and who you are, and who you help.
Sure. So my name is Fiona Pimentel, and I live in the Cayman Islands in the Caribbean. I'm married with 4 children, except those children are now adults, so none of them live with us anymore. And um, I started as a coach in 2021, and that's when I kind of started studying coaching and just started coaching as soon as I started learning, kind of alongside. And I guess first of all, I just started coaching other coaches because, we had to get in our hours. We did a lot of coaching exchanges, and I found that really, really helpful because at that time, of course, when you're learning, you're making mistakes, and so it was a really good way to learn. Then, having realized that coaches were business owners, I thought, oh, I'll see if I can coach some business owners. But in the meantime, the people who came to me were people who were people who were unemployed, basically.
Mhm.
Women, middle-aged women who were either retired or they were stay-at-home moms, or they were just unemployed. And most of them had ADHD. Like menopausal women tend to have ADHD symptoms, but most of them had actually been diagnosed with ADHD. And so I helped them. And then more recently, I've been working with some business owners, male business owners, because I used to only work with women. And I just had this kind of thing that I didn't really feel safe, I guess, coaching men. Or I felt that maybe, they should be coached by other men so that they would understand each other better. And, with coaching women, there was a much better rapport. And then recently I've been coaching some men, and it's been great. It's actually, you know, um, so yeah.
Excellent. I love that. So thank you so much for, giving that overview of your journey. And so, your kids are grown, and you've made this transition. So I love the premise of this conversation. And so it sounds like as part of your journey, you started to explore coaching. You started to enter into these different trainings, and as you learned, you helped a variety of people. Some of it was fellow coaches, and it sounds like as you connected with people, while you were helping them or able to help them, it sounds like what became clear for you, or what became apparent, is that you started to develop a certain criteria of what you were looking for in a client. And some of those people were not your ideal clients. Do I have that correct?
Um, yeah, I mean, I still resonate with women, middle-aged women, obviously, as I am a middle-aged woman. But I just broadened myself, and I've been in various different coaching schools. Some of which say you have to have a niche and you have to be really specific about it, and then others say you don't need a niche at all, just coach anyone on anything. And then another school said, well, for the first few years, don't have a niche, and then your niche will find you, which is probably the one that makes the most sense. Um, and because I never set out to coach people with ADHD, but
Mm-hmm.
they found me. and even even the business owners, some of them have got ADHD,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's kind of quite interesting to see. But I'm still building my business,
Mm-hmm.
and it's constantly changing. I feel like every kind of few months, it's kind of really different from how it was a few months before. So, um, I'm not having to really, I haven't really kind of reached the point where I can say this is definitively it.
Mm. Yeah. And I think this is great to highlight for people because I think, on this journey, especially early on when you're meeting people, there's the main purpose, right, is to be of service, is to connect with people, is to coach them. And some people can pay, some people can't pay, some people are very committed to their growth, some people are not very committed to their growth. And all of this is these data points that help us get familiar with understanding who a quality client is for us.
Mm.
And what have you found for yourself? Because it sounds like you've broadened who you serve. What have you noticed has shifted for you in terms of how you show up for those people or how they come into your life as you've broadened who you're serving?
Um, well, I mean, I guess I've had clients have come from all sorts of different places, and I haven't really had like one system that I've just been following, and consistently and getting clients from there.
Hmm.
But what the one thing I've noticed is that if somebody just wants to kind of, I don't know, maintain their fitness and eat healthy and keep a tidy house or something like that, that doesn't really set me on fire. And I'd really rather work with people who want to make a difference in the world,
Hmm.
um, who have some kind of sense of mission. Some people are into, the environment or whatever. And, for me, like, what lights me up is bringing peace. And so, if somebody's aligned with that, then I'm more likely to want to coach with them than if they just say, well, they want to make kind of very small changes and just maintain them. I want them
Hmm.
I want them to be motivated to make big changes, both in themselves and in people they're helping or people they're serving, or just in the world generally.
Yeah, so it sounds like what really sets you on fire is someone who really has a sense of commitment that they want to do something greater in the world or in their life. Um, Now I'm curious, what was the transition like for you to go from being a stay-at-home mom to stepping into having your own business? Because I imagine there may be a stay-at-home mom or someone who's in a transition where their kids are leaving the house and maybe they're looking at coaching or maybe they're saying I would like to step into having my own business.
Mm.
What was that transition like for you, and what did you have to yeah, what did you have to discover for yourself on that?
Well, I think thank you for the question, because I do believe that being a stay-at-home mom and going into coaching is completely different from having had a corporate career, and going into coaching. And so, being a stay-at-home mom, the people that I would have conversations with were other moms. When you've got a baby, so you know what it's like when you have a baby, and you're just kind of talking about your baby, and then that continues as the kids get older. You're talking about your kids, and it's very kind of family centric. Whereas, if you've been working in a corporate environment, then you're much more about the workplace and everything like that. And so, one aspect is the credibility. Like, are these people going to believe that I'm any good at coaching if I've been a stay-at-home mum for 2 decades? But it's also another thing, of course, is the confidence to speak to these people who sound so impressive, when they're talking. And what I find that I bring is a kind of, well, the only word I can think of is maternal quality. So in a sense, I'm helping to reparent those clients, and even if they're older than me, I definitely have a kind of maternal love or caring for them, and often somebody may be very, very successful in their business, but they're at the core of them, they've got this terrible pain, or maybe fear or guilt, or any kind of thing that's holding them back. And so I help them to deal with that. And often we're damaged in our parental relationships, and so I help them to come to healing through the relationship with me.
Excellent. Yeah, I love that. So what I'm hearing is that part of what you really became aware of is that originally there were these feelings that came up of can you serve this person who perhaps has had a career or has had a high level position, and maybe even if it was someone that was a fellow stay-at-home mother, almost this belief of, well, I've been a stay-at-home mom, and if I've been doing that, could they find me credible to be a coach? And so I'm hearing that for you, in your journey, you had a discovery that you really bring this maternal sense to help people heal those parts of them that perhaps have been a pain or they didn't experience when they were younger, that helps them actually clear that up and move on to their next goals. I'm curious, what have you found most useful for them to have that sense of credibility, that you're a credible coach for them? What shifted for you there, or what did you yeah, how did you create that connection with them for them to find you credible? Yeah.
Well, I always give them an experience of my coaching. So then, they see it for themselves. I'm not trying to persuade them, hey, I'm really good at what I do. I give them an experience of my coaching, and then they're often quite surprised. And, because a lot of people have expectations of what coaching will be. Maybe they think I'm going to come along and give them some strategies for their business. And maybe it does start off with talking about something to do with business. I've got problems with my staff or whatever it is, but it always boils down to what's going on inside of them.
Mhm. Yeah. And what have you found useful in terms of creating that bridge or that connection to your area? I'll call it your area of expertise or your specialty, where you talk about bringing this maternal care into the coaching. Because let's say it's someone in business or just any client, they might have an expertise in something. And what have you found useful in terms of creating that connection for them to have an awareness that you can help them, um, even if you may not be an industry expert on that particular area? How have you created that bridge for them to see the benefit of the work that you're doing or your specialty tied to what they want?
Well, I think, as I say, it's the experience of it. Um,
Mm,
so if you're asking about what modalities I'm using, there's something that I use called embodied processing,
mhm,
which really talks about, or it's really to do with the emotions that are stuck in the body, and how we sometimes have parts of us that are kind of like orphaned parts. And
mhm,
it's all about welcoming those orphaned parts back and reintegrating them and allowing the emotions to express themselves. And most of the time, my clients say, I don't have these conversations with anybody else,
mhm.
or they say, oh, I've been seeing a therapist, and I've never spoken about this to my therapist, but they open up to me. So
Yeah.
it's always gratifying.
Yeah, absolutely. So it sounds like with those modalities that you've learned and the training that you've had, you're able to bring those to those particular scenarios, and from that they recognize a shift that happens, or they recognize an intimacy that occurs through the conversation, that they aren't having that with people in their life, or
Yeah.
um, with even with their therapist. Um, yeah, I think this is wonderful. What else have you noticed for yourself in this transition, or what recommendation would you give to someone who perhaps is exploring having their own business, or wanting to make a change from being a stay-at-home mom? Yeah.
I I always say, when people say to me, "What's your first, your top piece of advice for anyone wanting to become a coach who is not working, this the stay at home mom," I would say get a job, get a part time job if you can, because it's really hard work becoming a coach, and there's just such a learning, there's such a lot of learning to do and working on yourself, that people expect that if you become a coach, you're suddenly going to be earning, I don't know, six figures or something, and it's not necessarily going to happen that quickly. And so, in order to build up your confidence and also give you financial security, take up a part-time job at least, so that you've got that financial security and that emotional security as well,
Mm.
and then work it from there.
Right. So it sounds like them really getting clear on what they want in terms of being a coach or a business, or at least having a direction that they're going. And once they know that, to know that it's something that takes time to build. It's something that requires a consistent commitment, and to make sure that they're emotionally and financially secure, to have it sounds like to do something part-time,
Mm,
um, to have a part-time job to create some income, so they start to build that routine, to have that security, and to also then outside of that spend time working on creating their coaching practice or working on their business. Is that right?
yeah, yeah, and some people will say, "Oh, well, you've got enough knowledge. You don't need to do courses." But I think that actually, I'm not sure that I would agree with that. I think it is helpful to do a certification in coaching and maybe other modalities as well. I've got one in relationship coaching, which is completely different from my pure coaching
Hmm.
modality. And there's always different techniques that are helpful, and there'll be certain things that you're more interested in than others. You can't do all of them because there's hundreds of them. Um, but I think it does help you with your confidence to have all different certifications. So, and typically, if someone's been a stay-at-home mom, they might be lacking in confidence in terms of their career. So, just having those pieces of paper, knowing what helps you to feel confident in your abilities.
Sure. So sounds like trainings in terms of coaching and building familiarity with the industry, but also for them to have a sense of perhaps the way to coach, or styles of coaching, and as well, depending on how they want to help people, some form of training in different areas, so they have the tools to help people. Am I getting
Yeah.
that right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you wouldn't want a brain surgeon to just say, "Well, I know what a brain looks like, so I'm going to start operating," or you wouldn't start driving a car without having taken lessons, you know.
Hmm.
Um, and well, in a sense, okay, lives are not at stake in the sense of actually someone's going to die, but lives are at stake in the sense that you can do a lot of damage to people
Mm.
if you are not trained in what you're doing. If you're just kind of being a helpful person, just, okay, well, I can listen to you and give you advice. A lot of damage is done that way.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, one of my certifications is trauma-informed coach,
Mm-hmm.
which is pretty helpful.
Yeah. Um, yeah. Could you talk a little more on that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that, for example, there may be words that you use that somebody might feel unsafe just at the thought of that word.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's one of the things you could do is find out, well, what word do they want to use
Mm-hmm.
when talking about a particular concept? Or, even just explaining to them a little bit about, well, the behavior that you're displaying, is it like a trauma response? It's an adaptation. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It just means you have learned, as a kind of coping mechanism, you've learned to do this behavior. And having learned it, you can then unlearn it as well
Mm-hmm.
and replace it with something more helpful.
Excellent. Yeah. So for them to have a sense of where they the training and a sense of where they could really help somebody. And I liked what you said, right? Because there's two different philosophies where some people might say you don't need another training, you don't need another course.
Mm.
And I'm also hearing that through training and through courses, it's helped you develop your skills. And there's perhaps a distinction between thinking somebody needs another course so they can create clients versus having a sense of their own professional training.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there is such a thing as a shiny object syndrome, where
Mm-hmm.
we see loads and loads of courses and we want to study everything. We don't want to spend all our time studying.
Yeah.
But I think it is good to have a kind of handful of tools in your toolkit that you can pick up whenever you need them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Beautiful. And so I'm just thinking of the person listening to this, and so they're having a sense that they're in this transition. They're knowing that they're exploring creating their own business. It sounds like going for training is helpful. We've talked about them having a certainty in themselves, or at least a sense of their own credibility. Sharing sessions or experiences with people is a great way for people to um, see them as a coach as opposed to perhaps just the fellow mother that they've been speaking with. And from there, let's say they do those things. um, what have you found for yourself? um, Maybe they're working a part-time job and they're starting to build their practice. Do you have any recommendations on when they should let go of the part-time job, or um, how to balance that focus? Because I think even if they stay in the part-time job, how do they balance that focus? Because sometimes I imagine it's feels a little more secure or a little easier to do the something for somebody else than it can be for our own business. What have you found helpful in that arena?
Well, I mean, I found it really helpful doing a part-time job. And before I had a part-time job, I didn't have any clients. And then I got a part-time job and I got about 4 clients in 1 week or something.
Mhm.
So, it really helped me, as I said, like psychologically. And even though the first part-time job that I did was not a job that I would have aspired to do, but it was just the fact of I had to get up in the morning and get somewhere, be somewhere and get dressed and everything, and get ready for work. And then I switched to another job that was more interesting. But
Mhm.
I think just do it for as long as it feels good, and
Yeah.
when you're getting so busy in your coaching business that you haven't got time for a part-time job, that's time to give up your part-time job. And when you're earning enough,
Mm.
that you can replace that income.
Yep. And is there anything that you did to help balance working the part-time job versus working your own business? Yeah.
Well, my balance was I worked part-time in the morning
Hmm.
and then I came home and did my business in the afternoon.
Okay. So that's how you thought of it is if I do this in the morning, then I know what I'm doing in the afternoon. Is that right?
Yeah. Um,
Okay.
and it really helps you to focus, because you've only got a few hours. And whereas if you've got the whole day, you kind of might fritter away some of the time.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's really good because what I've witnessed with people is, especially when there's that part-time job, sometimes it's really easy to then go, okay, well, I'm gonna relax, or I'll
Mm.
put the business off. So it sounds like really having that committed or designated time is what helped you know when you were working on the business and what the part-time job is. So you didn't put it on the back burner.
Mm. True. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Excellent. And what could you tell people now? You've gone through this journey. You've made so many shifts and transitions into becoming a business owner. What helped you with your identity as a business owner? Because I imagine that's a shift in identity, right? From stay at home mom to this is my profession and this is how I serve people. What has what has that been like, and what have you found for yourself there?
Well, I guess I had a gentler kind of transition because I went from part-time work to having my own business as managing a vacation rental property, and then went from that to coaching.
Mm,
And so it was kind of quite a gradual journey. Um, but you have to be it's helpful to be aware of, like, when you're having a conversation with somebody, are we just going for coffee? Is this a chat?
mm,
Or do you actually want a coaching session? Because sometimes people will try to get, um, they'll kind of go, okay, you're a coach, so I'd love to have a chat with you. And then
mm,
they start telling you their problems and things like this. And you're like, well, sorry, did you want coaching? I thought we were having coffee, So it's good to kind of set those boundaries and communicate, and see just agree what a conversation is going to be about, whether it's going to be a chat or whether it's going to be a coaching session.
mm.
You know,
And if it's okay to ask, is there any way that is there a particular way you communicate that with them? Because I imagine for someone who's never done that before, it's probably not only confronting for them to say it, but it might be perhaps a little unexpected or jarring for the recipient. Yeah.
yeah, gosh, and it's difficult because thinking back, I remember I had this one person who used to invite me for tea in a hotel lobby, and then I would give her coaching for free, and she would buy the tea. And this went on for quite a long time until I said, okay, well, from now on, if you want any coaching, it's going to have to be paid.
Mm,
Um, and I had several clients who are non-paying clients, because at the beginning, when I was helping couples, I was deliberately doing it for free.
hmm
And I said, well, if anyone wants to work on more kind of work oriented things, I would charge them, but for relationships, I'd do it for free. And then I kind of decided, well, no, I actually want to charge for relationships. And when I told them, yeah, I mean, like, for example, when you've been giving someone free coaching for a year,
hmm
and then you tell them you've got to pay for it, they don't like it. They've had this good, they've been on a good thing, good deal, and so they kind of, I found that they just kind of disappeared. um, but then I just started again, and it's, there's been several times where I've had a few clients, and then I've kind of burnt it down and started again, and each
mm.
time it's a kind of you're stepping up into a new level.
Sure. So it sounds like it's what you've gathered is that it's really important to have those boundaries ahead of time so they aren't finding
Mm,
themselves perhaps in those subtle exchanges of the tea and the coaching, but instead to have those boundaries ahead of time so that way it doesn't just
yeah.
prolong, or if they do notice it, it sounds like to even if they communicated and said, because I think there's this balance, right? Sometimes someone might want a piece of advice, and it sounds like it's a further conversation of, if you really want to change this, or you're really committed to making a difference here, what's really going to serve you is a proper coaching experience, right? Did I get that correct?
Yes, definitely. Yes.
Yeah. And I'm loving this. And so it sounds like that shift in identity, what part of it was really having clear boundaries around those experiences. For you, you had the part-time work for the vacation rental, and so it was a bit of a smoother transition. If someone perhaps isn't in as smooth of a transition, and they're in this identity shift, is there anything you'd recommend that either they look into, or a thought that they take on, or a belief around their identity stepping into business?
Well, yes. I mean, they might like to consider what they're wearing. I know I haven't really dressed up for this conversation much, but um, things like makeup and nails and hair and clothes, um, just to help them to kind of step into that professional self. Uh,
Yeah.
you know, some people feel, oh, it doesn't really make a difference, but others would feel, yes, it makes a big difference. Um, Maybe have a place where you do your work, because I used to just work in the kitchen or whatever. And then I got myself a home office, which, well, actually, my home office at the moment is still just part of another room. But it's like a corner of the room where I've got my desk and I've got everything set up, and everybody knows if I'm sitting there, then you can't come and just chat with me, family members when they're here. Um, and so, having a place that you work, and then getting away from that place, for example, if you want to work till 5:30, just keeping to that schedule, because often people will ask you for coaching at 8 p.m. because they're at work all day, and so they say, well, I can only do after 6 or whatever. But so kind of knowing what you want to commit to. Do you
Mm,
want to be working at 7 o'clock in the morning because somebody's on the opposite side of the world? Or do you want to be working at 8 p.m. because they've been at work? Or, I have a rule that I don't talk to anybody in Asia, in Southeast Asia, because of the time difference from where I'm living. I don't want to work at 7 o'clock in the morning. And
mhm.
so I don't bother, getting in contact with people that live over there, I'm afraid.
Right.
And, you know, um, I like to have a cutoff point at the end of the day where I'm
Mhm.
not working and I step away from my desk. And then
Yeah.
yeah.
I think this is excellent. And I'm just going to um, reiterate it back, because I think I might say it a little differently
Mm,
as well, just in case it helps others with their listening of this. What I'm hearing is that having a dedicated space to get work done is really helpful. So it's not confused with being home, or that it's social time, but that
mm,
it's actually committed work time, or this is where your office is. And sometimes that can even look like being creative, or working on something, or contacting someone, or holding a call. And I'm also hearing with that it's very useful to set almost working hours of when you're working,
mm,
so that the people in your life know that you're treating it as a profession. Because especially when someone's starting out, it sounds like they might not have a client immediately, and maybe the afternoon is spent creating or coming up with ideas. That's just as important as if they were on a call with somebody. Because I what I've witnessed in people's experiences is that sometimes they might not have someone on the calendar, so it's really easy to say yes to a family member, another
mm,
obligation. So what I'm hearing from you is actually treat it as though you are at work, because you are. It's your profession. Um, and then the other piece to this that you opened up with, where you said the hair and the nails, it it sounds like, because when we're home we can dress, more relaxed, and especially if they're coaching and they're working from home,
Mm.
to have a distinction between the two of, I'm stepping into my professional self, or I'm dressing for my role in the way that the way that I see that, or what I want to step into. Am I getting those correct?
Yes, absolutely, definitely. And then another thing that occurs to me is, for somebody who's completely new to coaching, is treat the first year as an apprenticeship, and just know that you're practicing. And well, that, I mean, that's what I did anyway. And maybe it doesn't suit everybody, but that's what I did. And I just thought every coaching session that you give, it doesn't matter who it is or what it's about, it teaches you something. And also get coached yourself. So that's why I did a lot of coaching exchanges. And
Mhm.
even when somebody's coaching me and maybe they're not very skilled, I would learn from that experience. I'd learn what not to do, as well as what to. If they were more experienced, then I'd learn what to do. So it's really helpful. And then, they if they're more experienced than you, then they can give you some guidance and kind of help you to progress
Mm.
with your business.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful, and great advice, which is also the benefit of taking part in the training programs like you were
Mm.
talking about. It's a way to create partnerships or shared experiences, um, and to have a coaching exchange between people. I think that's wonderful. I think that's wonderful
Yeah,
advice. Um,
yeah. The first one of the first coaching schools I was in, we were allocated a partner for 6 weeks, and so we were to give each other 3 coaching sessions each. But I just basically contacted everybody I knew and said, let's do a coaching exchange. Um, so I did coaching exchanges with about 25 people or something like that, and some of them lasted a year or that kind of thing. And I learned a lot.
Excellent. Wow. And so you've taken part in quite a few trainings, and have built your skill sets. Are there, for you, is there anything that you've learned in terms of, because someone might hear this and they might say, well, I'm going to take all the trainings, or I'm going to jump into them all.
Mm.
What wisdom or what experience would you share with them to help them understand, perhaps, either what to choose for a training, or in terms of staying focused, how many should they do at once?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'd definitely say just do one course at once, because it can get very, very overwhelming um, to do more than one. Even doing one is a lot. But most courses, you've got modules to learn and then maybe classes to attend. They could be daily or they could be weekly or monthly or whatever. But you've got to attend those classes. It's also a good idea to connect with other people in the course, other students. And so just focus on one at a time. And I guess just choose it based on what you want to learn. If it's a modality, what do you need to learn for yourself? But perhaps it's like a business school type of course, in which case, what are you needing to learn in your business?
Yeah. And as we're winding down here, is there anything else that's coming through for you that you'd like to let someone who's in this transition know? What would you like? Yeah, anything else that you want to talk about in terms of this that you think could be impactful for them?
Well, I think, as I had mentioned at the beginning, I think that going from being a stay-at-home mom to being a coach is quite unusual, because I've been looking for other stay-at-home moms, and I haven't really been able to find any other people who've previously been stay-at-home moms in their previous existence, and I haven't been able to find any. So if anyone is in that position, I'd encourage them to reach out, and I'd be very happy to support them, and we can have a chat.
Perfect.
Or
And
engage.
yeah, and a question um, that's coming through for me, because I know for you it sounds like there's an element where your kids are out of the house, and for some others there may be an experience where their kids are in school, or they don't need to be as close of proximity as they once were, and so they might be in a transition where they have more time available to them. Do you think this is something where they could kind of do coaching part-time but not have this huge practice? Is this something where, yeah, even if they have kids and they aren't out of the house yet, that they might be able to dip their feet in, or start the process? Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. I think there's lots of people who do start when they've got kids at home, and they just have to take it at their own pace.
Hmm.
So I mean, you've got maybe a few hours in the day when the kids are at school, and then that in the afternoon they're going to be coming home, and you're going to need to help them with homework and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you just have to sort of fit in with what you can do, fit what you can do into the time that you've got, and not try to think you're going to conquer the world, within 2 weeks. Um, just kind of be realistic about what you can actually get done.
Yeah, I love that, and I think everything that we spoke about really ties into that. Even the credibility, right? Because that might be something that comes up for them, of they're still being a stay-at-home mom, but also building this practice that as long as they follow the things that you're speaking about, and recognizing where they can help people, and even investing in a training that can help with building that credibility, seeing themselves as that professional too.
And if they've got young children still at home, that might actually lend to a niche. For example, my kids, as I said, are much older. They've left the house and everything. I had this one client who wanted me to coach her up to the point of giving birth. So she was nervous about having a second child, and I just gave her some coaching up to that point. Whereas it didn't really feel like it was very relevant to my life. And so, somebody who was still at that point of having small children, they would be able to support other women in a similar position.
Hmm.
So I'm kind of like in between two worlds. There's the stay-at-home moms with little kids, and then there's the people who've been in corporate. But I was kind of somewhere in between, where my kids have left home. I'm an empty nester,
Hmm.
and so it was kind of a quite a different dynamic, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And if somebody wanted to reach out to you because they were interested in your work, or they had questions, what's the best way for them to find you?
Well, they can just look me up on Facebook, Fiona Pimentel, or on LinkedIn, same again, Fiona Pimentel. And my nickname is the Courageous Coach as well. And I'd be happy to support them and answer any questions they may have, or as I say, we can have a chat or a coaching session.
Perfect. Excellent. And for anyone else that has questions for me, or you're curious about, this topic, or any conversations that you've seen in this series, you can find me at jmwhiteman.com. And I just want to thank you, Fiona, for making time to be here today to share your experience, because I have no doubt this is going to make a difference for a lot of people, especially people that are in transitions, whether they're a stay-at-home mom, or they are retired, or just in a shift and want to step into having their own business, or they're interested in coaching. So thank you for being here, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you too, James. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you. See you, everybody. Bye.
Bye.